to share with you all something that I'm guilty of. Procrastination. I can't remember the last time I had a piece of work to do that I didn't procrastinate doing. My procrastination usually involves tunneling through Wikipedia rabbit holes, which is something that's always more interesting than the work I have to do. When it came to writing this very talk, the pressure of having to make it good unfortunately translated to not doing anything about it for as long as I could manage. So at this point, it feels like the higher the stakes are, the more debilitating the procrastination is. And I got a taste of this when revising for my mock exams. So if you're anything like me, you're also stressing for your exams. And if you're a parent, you've probably witnessed this stress at home. There's GCSEs, then A-levels, and then all of a sudden one thing leads to the next, and you suddenly find yourself lacking the direction in life. When the structured guidance of school ends, and the real world begins. What do you work for when there are no more exams to take? What happens if you don't know what you're preparing for next? This is where lying flat usually gets hold of most people. Although at first, the urge to stop and lie flat might seem far-fetched, I kind of understand why people choose to do it. I mean, after all, I got a glimpse of this through my procrastination habits. So lying flat, or its Chinese original, 躺平, refers to the rejection of societal pressures to overwork, and it's the binary opposite of hustle culture. The lying flat movement has sparked widespread media fanfare, particularly in China, where a generation of youths are adopting a more simple, stress-free lifestyle. One user on a Chinese social media platform shared his philosophy on not working for 2 years, saying, "I can live like Diogenes, who slept in his wine cask in the sun." So, I came across this image the other day that really caught my eye. It's an image of a youth retirement home. It's like an oxymoron. How can a retirement home be intended for youth? So I kept researching and discovered that walking down the streets and stumbling upon one of these youth retirement homes is actually becoming more and more common. And so when you step into one of these youth retirement homes, young people, typically aged 20 to 30, are playing chess, reading, or even doing some light exercises. Now, these are things that my grandparents do in their free time. So who really occupies these youth retirement homes? If you think the only occupants are lazy, apathetic individuals, you're wrong. Exhibit 1 is 27-year-old Jan, who recently graduated from Shanghai Jiaotong University, one of the top public universities belonging to the C9 League in China. So after Jan sent out 2,000 job applications and attended hundreds of job interviews later, he finally secured a job, only to quit after 4 months. Now, obviously, this was much to the dismay of his parents, who now fund his sedentary lifestyle. Jan now spends his days sleeping and gaming. But Jan is not alone. Behind the apathy of the many Jans in the world lies a web of reasons, and I'll be discussing the 3 main ones today. First, Asian parenting culture often tells you that attending an elite university is the ultimate end goal. It doesn't help that these parents act in a way that makes their children think, well, now that I'm at Harvard, my life is set. But the tough reality check comes when they're no longer the top student of their school. We've all heard stories of the straight A student feeling like a small fish in a large pond, surrounded by a deluge of equally brilliant peers. So it's unsurprising then that research has found that self-esteem consistently declined amongst top students. And when this happens, students are no longer proactive about their goals as they feel like they don't have a direction in life anymore. Secondly, even if students make it through university unscathed, they are unprepared for the disillusionment in the workforce. Now all of a sudden, the effort seems heavily disproportionate to the outcome. And a good example of this is the 996 working hour system in China, where employees are expected to work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. That's grueling, and it's no wonder that burnout is so common. At the other end of the spectrum, some students put in hard work to earn a prestigious degree, but find themselves starting out from the bottom, performing menial tasks, and are often left wondering, well, I have a degree from Harvard. Why am I stuck at a job where all I do is stand next to a photocopier for hours and hours? Lastly, we are bombarded with the grim economic reality that exacerbates the temptation for young people to adopt this lying flat mentality. When we constantly see headlines like Hong Kong amongst the world's most expensive places to live, young people think that owning an apartment is an unattainable dream. So why even bother trying? But it doesn't need to end here. Lying flat actually overlooks an important factor in reasons for working. People work not only to support their livelihoods and earn money, but to live out their values, explore their self-identity, and fulfill their potential. Entering the workforce does not need to be a binding contract to ascend the career ladder, but can instead be an opportunity to figure out what it is you enjoy. Enthusiasm and a sense of purpose is the best antidote to burnout. So this brings me to the central message of my talk. How do we avoid falling into the trap of lying flat? Well, I suggest a two-pronged approach to combat this. First, we need to recognize that lying flat is the youth's rebellion to hyper-competition. So there needs to be steps taken to denounce this over-competition. And this should come from teachers or parents or the government. For instance, the government can invest in educational reforms that prioritize holistic development. And society as a whole needs to recognize more diverse paths to success and to know that societal contribution and personal fulfillment can come in many, many forms. Secondly, it's becoming increasingly difficult to thrive in today's competitive workplace. And to do that, resilience is key. Whilst overhauling societal attitudes might not be possible for now, we can still start small. Rather than lose yourself in the cutthroat environment of today's society, set realistic and meaningful goals. Teachers and parents help children to realize these goals by encouraging them to explore their interests, creating an environment where students have the freedom to pursue their hobbies. And these students will grow up prepared and happy to try out new things. Remember that a divergence from societal expectations is not the end of the world. Ultimately, the pursuit of a meaningful life requires effort and perseverance, contrasting the lying flat maxim of disengagement and apathy. So, going back to the question, what happens if you don't know what you're preparing for next? Well, it's okay. The important thing is to feel empowered to embrace the unknown and to know that these opportunities can be a means of personal exploration and growth. Thank you very much.